Hey girlies, welcome back to the YouTube channel. So freaking happy you're here this week. This is a little bit of a different style of video that I haven't done in a while, but I always love doing it because I think they really are the most helpful whenever I can just sit down and talk to you. Today I'm going over all of the mistakes that I made in my initial weight loss journey and my fitness journey in general throughout the entire process. I'm also going to walk you through how I would have done it differently to get the most efficient progress so that I wasn't wasting my time. This is really going to help you if you're looking for the route to weight loss that doesn't feel super restrictive, that feels like you're staying full and satisfied during the process, that really helps you focus on mindset and changing your relationship with food along the way. And honestly, the most efficient tactics that I would never stop doing if I wanted to be successful in a lot shorter of a time period than I did, because in my personal journey, you guys, I went through so much freaking trial and error trying to figure out the right tactics to work within my lifestyle. And it took me way longer than it should have to achieve the final result, right? And overall, I'm so happy that it took me that long, and I'm so happy that I went through that journey myself of the hardships and the corrections and the knowledge and building the foundation that I needed to ultimately make this my career, right? However, I don't want you to have to go through all of that same digging yourself out of quicksand that I did, because it's honestly exhausting. And of course, if you can get to your peak, most confident self faster with the fitness results that you want to see in your body, why would we not want to do that, right? So let's get into it. Just to give you a little bit of background about my story if you're new here, the very first time I lost weight, I lost 30 pounds in a very restrictive way, right? This was in high school. I knew nothing about nutrition. I knew nothing about, honestly, fitness overall, right? I just knew I needed to burn a lot of calories. And me, 15 years old going on 16, right? I was like probably the chunkiest out of my friends, and I was just like very insecure in my body. And I was like, I'm going into high school, I'm gonna change this. In my mind, I had no idea what I was doing. I thought, okay, I just need to eat less calories than I'm burning. So I would track my calories on my Apple Watch. I would figure out how many calories that I was burning through exercise, and I thought that eating less than that was the only way, right? When in reality, I didn't know what BMR was. I didn't know what TDEE was, and I was really under eating. I wasn't fueling my body enough, and I was really over exercising, and I was only running. I wasn't doing any strength training because I was an athlete. So I was a dancer, I played basketball, also did cheer in junior high, and then I did studio dance, and then I also ran track. So a lot of things going on in there. Was always active, honestly, throughout all of my years in school. Never strength training, because we didn't really strength train much at all. We maybe did like weighted circuits and stuff like that whenever I was in high school for sports, but it wasn't until after this, and it was never anything like heavy compound movements where we were progressive overloading and working on building muscle. It was always more like HIIT style training. So that's all I knew was extreme cardiovascular exercise, pushing myself as hard as I possibly could to get my heart rate up, breathing heavy, and I knew, okay, I'm gonna run and I'm gonna lose weight. However, I got to the point after losing 30 pounds that I was very insecure in my body. I hated how I looked, and I honestly was really insecure still. And I was like, why did I think that getting to this goal weight was something that was going to really increase my confidence whenever now I feel really skinny? I still don't have any definition that I want. I'm still insecure in parts of my body that don't feel like I have any muscle tone, or that you can see any definition on my body, because I didn't have any muscle. Or the muscle that I did have, I ran away because I was under fueling. Going up into the next time I started losing weight, which was in college, I started getting interested about strength training. And there was a big gap in between there, of course, that I went back and forth between different things. But whenever I really settled down after gaining a bunch of weight in college, whenever I first started, I gained about 15 pounds my freshman year. I think, if I can think back correctly, yeah, probably about 15 pounds since starting over that first semester, which was extremely fast weight gain. And I was literally like, what am I doing? I was eating way too much, calorically, junk food. I was putting my social life on a pedestal, but not being active at all because I wasn't doing sports anymore. I wasn't working out and going to the gym. And that put me in a place where I was putting on weight rapidly, right? So I gained that weight, and I decided I'm doing something about this to change this. And that is when we started strength training. I started strength training the second semester, and I had strength trained a little bit before college, right? So I had got into it and I was interested, but once I got into college, I wasn't deep enough into making it my passion and part of my routine that it stuck. And so then I started getting deeper into it post my first semester of freshman year. So the second semester of freshman year is when I started going to the gym pretty much every single day. And really since then, since that first time, I don't think that I have missed the gym for more than, or missed a workout session during COVID. Obviously couldn't go to the gym every day, but I haven't went longer than probably 10 days without working out, like consecutively for like vacations and stuff like that. I got addicted, made it part of my lifestyle, and we went through many changes since then. Starting there to where I am now, right? Overall, my biggest weight loss was 37 pounds total. Since I reached my lowest weight in my cut this year, I have been increasing steadily a little bit, putting on some muscle mass for my goals of staying lean while building muscle. So my body fat percentage is staying relatively close to where I want it to be. Of course, we'll see small increases in that just because you pretty much have to see increases whenever you're putting on muscle. But my biggest transformation pounds wise was 37 pounds total. Now I'm about like, from my heaviest weight, you know, when I first started losing weight, I think I'm about 31, maybe 31 pounds from that, or still in the 30s, but a little bit up from my lowest, right? So because I'm working on body composition right now. But anyways, the biggest mistake I made in the beginning was inconsistency with nutrition and not locking in as much with nutrition as I was with exercise. And I think this is a huge problem for so many women because we idolize working out, we love being active, but we're not diligent enough about putting equal effort into our nutrition as we are our exercise, right? So we're exercising with the intentions of getting lean or building muscle or changing our body composition or being more confident, but then we don't see results because 90% of the equation is nutrition anyways, and your exercise should supplement your nutrition routine. Your nutrition routine should be the foundation of, okay, this is how I'm going to reach my goal. My exercise tagged onto this is kind of like a extra battery, right? To give me more energy and power to get to the goal quicker. So I wasn't prioritizing that. I was honestly keeping my diet relatively the same. I started tracking calories, but I was so freaking inconsistent with calorie tracking. And I don't mean inconsistent like, oh, I would do 3 days here and then stop. I mean inconsistent as far as I would track every day and put 100, it felt like 100% of my mental effort into thinking about calories and thinking about macros and tracking everything and looking up the calories and things, scanning barcodes. I was putting all this mental effort in only to lie to myself and not be weighing things out on a food scale to get the correct portions, only to say, okay, I'm done tracking for the night, and then go out with my friends and not track any of the alcohol I was drinking, only to lick all the portions off the side of the cake, like scrape the icing off the side and just tell myself, oh, it doesn't count because it's just the icing, it's not a piece of cake. And then I would go back 4 times and do that throughout the night, only to not track things that I didn't feel like feeling guilty about eating, like downing literally 30 Lifesaver mints in one setting that are 15 calories each and thinking that, oh, it's just a mint, I don't need to track it. There were so many habits that I was putting 100% of my mental effort into tracking calories, but I was only putting like 50% of that actual effort needed to execute to get results. And so ultimately what I was doing with working out every single day and being very active was keeping me stuck exactly where I was. And I was so pressed to see the scale drop and see results. And I was always constantly in my mind saying, there's not any more effort I can put into this, when in reality it wasn't the effort problem, it was the execution problem. And I was like, I'm doing everything. It's my genetics. I just carry so much fat in my stomach and I'm never going to be happy with it. It's my hormones. Something must be wrong. It must be my thyroid. Like, I'm just unable to lose weight. Like, why is everybody else around me able to lose weight and I'm not? But it's because the mathematical equation was not mathing and I was not putting my body in a calorie deficit. I was keeping myself at maintenance with the habits that I had. When it finally clicked in my head, hey Kelly, you have to take responsibility of this and take control of it. And I switched my mindset to think about, okay, I have to stop blaming everything else and I have to blame my execution. I will allow myself to blame everything else once I can walk away from 3 months of saying I executed to my fullest extent and it still didn't work, right? And that's when I actually started seeing changes. Later on was whenever I uncovered and I was honest with myself about all of those habits that I just mentioned that weren't adding up to what I needed them to be. Like, for example, sitting in bed and eating Cheez-Its and telling myself I ate 1 serving whenever I stopped counting at 30 and the serving was 32. Like, be so for real. You didn't eat 1 serving, you probably ate 3. Did you have the calories for 3? No. Did you log 3? No, you logged 1. And you crossed your fingers and hoped, oh, I'm gonna not feel guilty. I'm gonna save my own feelings because I don't want to see myself not execute like I told myself I would. Whenever I uncovered, okay, you're getting in your own way and the only way you're going to progress is with honesty and transparency, that's when I started making progress. So that was the first mistake that held me back for a really, really long time. And it's one that gets a lot of people. So I suggest, if you're going to take anything from this video, honesty and transparency on your goals for yourself seriously works wonders, and you will never be successful until you can accomplish that. The second mistake I made that kept me in a little cycle of not seeing the progress that I wanted was not settling on one goal, accomplishing it, and then moving on. It was switching back and forth between too many goals at once because I couldn't make up my mind. So what I mean by this is, once I started really, really working out, right, my body composition was changing. The scale really wasn't changing a lot, and that's because my nutrition still wasn't intact. Because my nutrition wasn't intact, I was losing fat here and there. I was putting on a lot of muscle. I still felt really like bulky, fluffy, or like inflamed, like I had a layer of fat, and I felt really puffy over my muscles, right? So I was getting bigger. I was seeing muscle growth. I was gaining muscle more quickly than I was losing fat. And so it was great gains, but I still wasn't happy with my body because I wasn't seeing the scale drop. I wasn't losing as much fat as I wanted. I still didn't feel confident in my clothes or a bathing suit or whatever. And I would keep telling myself, okay, maybe because you're not happy, even though you've been really trying, the problem isn't you, the problem isn't your habits, the problem is you're just striving towards the wrong goal. So I tell myself, like, okay, maybe your goal isn't to get really lean. Maybe your goal is to get a big butt, right? Or you need to get thicker, or you need to change the shape of your body, not through a calorie deficit. And I would go back and forth between, okay, I don't like the fat I'm carrying on my arms, my boobs feel too heavy, I don't like the fat I'm carrying in my stomach, but I'm lean in my legs and I want a bigger butt. So maybe I should eat in a maintenance, or maybe I should not care about my calories, and maybe I should just strength train, do my cardio and intuitive eat, and focus on the quality of my foods. And I would go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I would tell myself, okay, I'm gonna justify this weekend of not tracking and eating really high protein and having fun with my friends as balance. And it's okay because I need to be in maintenance calories anyways because I want to build a butt. And then I would keep myself stuck in the same situation because my quality of food would lack, but I also wasn't putting my body in a calorie deficit, which is ultimately what I needed to start seeing the fat loss that I wanted. So I would switch back and forth between those goals, and I would justify the actions that I was taking with whatever goal it fit best within that box. And that just had me toggling back and forth between, okay, maybe one week I was seeing progress towards this goal and one week I was seeing progress towards this goal, and I would take one step forward and one step back and I would be in the exact same position. So you need to decide on a goal and execute on that goal. If that goal, number one, starting out, is to see fat loss and get lean, commit to that goal. Yes, you can work on the foundations of a high protein diet, eating high fiber, eating whole foods, doing cardio and strength training, eating the right macros for your body to gain muscle. You can work on all of those things and really try to put on as much muscle in the process, but it's not going to be your top goal, right? So if it's fat loss, commit to that. Commit to okay, I'm going to get my body fat percentage to this area, or I'm going to lose this many pounds of fat, or I'm going to commit to fat loss for this long of a time period. Then once you're there and once you've achieved that goal, then shift your goal if you want to, right? So this year I executed my cut. I got down to a really comfortable body fat percentage where I was super comfortable with how lean I was and was proud of myself and was really excited about the definition I was seeing in the mirror. And then when I got there, I was like, okay, now I feel like I'm not stuck in a constant calorie deficit mentally without execution, so that I'm not getting any progress. I actually feel like I executed on my goal like I said I was going to. I got it done. Now I can switch my goal to more so focus on another goal that's part of the equation, right? With muscle gain, with staying lean, with being confident in my body while I build more muscle, with lifting heavier, with putting more muscle on my lower body. So those are my goals now. And the reason I'm able to focus on those and put my all-in execution into those goals is because I executed in the first place. And those can switch order. You can, do muscle gain first and then fat loss or whatever that looks like in your life. But you're going to get to the end goal so much faster if you commit to one and the other following it and just get through the process of your goals in that order to get to the end result, right? Honestly, something that kept me in a cycle of whirlwind of literally justifying what I was doing based on what felt good instead of being like, okay, this weekend you said you committed to this fat loss goal and you didn't execute and you need to fix it. That's how we got to the point where I was like, okay, now non-negotiably I'm committing to a goal and I'm going to make it happen. Number 3 is you have to shift your mindset and be confident in how your mentality is working, okay? If you're constantly second guessing yourself, I did this all the time. One of the biggest mistakes I would make is second guessing myself 24/7. I would be like, okay, I'm gonna count calories and macros every day. Then I would see somebody on the internet say, counting calories and macros is so toxic and you're setting yourself up for failure if you're trying to lose weight counting macros. And then I would question myself and I would be like, should I just intuitive eat for my goals? No. Be confident in the decisions that you're making, commit to them mentally, and don't let things stray you with no reason to, right? If there's scientific backing for something, and if I'm like, okay, you need to go do Pilates to build muscle because it feels better. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't have scientific backing. You're not going to get the goals that you want without doing the things required of you to get there. However, there is nuance and preference, right? You don't have to second guess all of the things that you're doing 24/7 because you hear one thing about it. You have to commit to consistency and find confidence in that. When I committed to consistency and I was like, hey, counting calories and macros is actually something that helps me find so much food freedom, because now I'm not scared of the chocolate chip pizza or the roll at the cafeteria. I'm like, oh, if I want to be able to have that but not sacrifice my goals in the process, I can just prepare a little bit and fit it into my day and go from there. It allowed me to be able to realize I don't have to be super strict with severe restriction like I was the last time I lost weight to be able to get there. I can actually incorporate foods that I love. I can satisfy my cravings. I can go have some wine with the girls. I don't have to cut out alcohol completely without feeling like, okay, I have to go all in with this craziness because, you know, I have to go and I had one glass of wine and now I have to binge drink and eat the Taco Bell, eat 700 calories in Taco Bell for a late night snack, and then go to bed and start over the next day because my macros weren't perfect, or because, you know, I deemed it a fear food and then I ate it and then I was like, might as well do it whatever and start over tomorrow. I don't have to do any of that now because I had macros and calories and I had numbers that told me what I needed to do to achieve my goals. When I realized that I can hit those numbers with a lot of different modes of balance and incorporation and a lot of different variety in my diet, it made me feel so much more free, and put a lot less shame, guilt, and negative feelings on food for me, right? Why would I go and sacrifice that freedom just because it didn't work for somebody else? That literally makes no sense. I have a client specifically, I think this example is so good, who she was really struggling executing her calorie deficit, right? Me as a coach, I'm somebody who usually the majority of the time I'm giving the advice of, you need to eat before your workouts. You need to maybe like a pre-workout carb snack. You need to eat maybe try to aim to get at least 30 grams of protein in your breakfast for your first meal so that we can set you up for success throughout the day. She was doing this and still having a very, very hard time executing in her calorie deficit for the day, right? She was really struggling with eating so much food in the morning and then feeling like she just wanted to keep eating and like not being able to regulate her hunger cues, really struggling with like trying to not eat late at night. And so we were like, okay, let's come up with some new ideas, right? Just because what I normally instruct wasn't exactly what was working for her, that didn't mean that I would just say, oh no, you just have to try harder. No, just because something works for my lifestyle doesn't mean it's going to work for other people, right? Which is why whenever I coach, I'm coaching my clients. I'm not coaching myself. I'm coaching what works best for them. When we made the switch of her kind of doing like an intermittent fasting style where she doesn't eat her first meal until almost noon, she has been so much more successful executing in her calorie deficit. She's still eating an amazing amount of protein. She's still hitting her healthy fats. She's still eating enough carbs to fuel her body and not feel like super low energy all day. She's still doing great in her classes, performing great, whenever she has requirements for some fitness tests that she has to do for work. She's doing amazing on this process mentally too. And it's working so well for her because she works out in the afternoon. So she goes the beginning of her morning when her hunger cues aren't that high, eats closer to lunch for her pre-workout. She has a meal before, and then she doesn't feel crazy cravings throughout the rest of the night. And it's completely changed the way that her consistency looks and her confidence in herself. That is the goal, right? So just because she might come across a video on her For You page saying, you have to have breakfast before 11 a.m. You have to eat breakfast within 30 minutes of waking up with 30 grams of protein. If she immediately thinks, oh my gosh, am I doing this all wrong on something that is really working for her lifestyle, her hunger cues, her mental, why would she go and throw that all away when she's being successful with something just because she sees somebody else go an opposite route and not vouch for that route to the goals, right? It wouldn't make any sense for her to throw that success down the drain just because somebody else doesn't prefer that method. That's the mistake I would definitely tell you not to make, is feel confident in the things that work for you. And are we going to disagree with science and the laws of thermodynamics and the types of exercises and the macros that your body needs to produce a result? No, right? I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, just because based on my own experience, Pilates grew my butt and completely lifted its shape. If it literally can't do that, right? Now, and some people, you know, if you're a beginner and you've never done any sort of exercise, maybe it did a little bit, right? But if I'm like me personally, I'm not going to say it did that if it literally can't physically do that on my body. However, when things work for your mentality and things are working for you and your lifestyle, when it comes to nutrition and your diet, you should not sacrifice that just because somebody says that it doesn't work for them. The next mistake I made is not prioritizing my mindset enough. Honestly, I probably think this is the most important one. If your mindset is not in the correct place when it comes down to executing on your goals, and your mindset around nutrition and exercise are so skewed, then if you do get to your goal, you probably aren't going to be able to maintain it if you don't have a sustainable mentality and a sustainable mindset that helps you create a really positive relationship with food and exercise. If you are constantly striving for a goal within a time frame and you're being really aggressive with it, right? And you're mentally drained, you're mentally creating a negative and toxic environment whenever it comes to your nutrition or fueling your body or forcing yourself to get to the gym every single day, if, you know, stressing yourself out, not being able to sleep if you don't hit 10K steps perfectly every single day. If it becomes a burden in your life, it probably is going to be something that you foster a negative relationship towards, that then in the future, you're going to completely fall off because of burnout and because of anxiety around it or because of overwhelm and stress. And when we're not creating a positive relationship with the habits that we want to continue, how do we expect ourselves to continue them to be able to sustain the goals that we reach? Mindset, and I think this goes completely hand in hand with rest, is huge when it comes down to being able to think positively about your goals. I think one thing that I've struggled with throughout my fitness journey is I kind of went through the process of leaving the all or nothing mindset, right? Because I used to deal with binge eating. And once I kind of fixed my nutrition and started fixing my mindset with consistency, I did get over that. And I did stop binge eating, which was a huge, huge win. However, I think when I stopped doing it, I realized how good I felt when I didn't have that portion of my life anymore. So when I wasn't doing the extremes of all of the negative things I associated, when I wasn't skipping going to the gym anymore, when I wasn't snoozing my alarm anymore and skipping my workout, when I wasn't not prioritizing my walks and steps, when I wasn't binge drinking at night anymore and feeling so puffy and gross and hungover the next day, when I wasn't saying, screw it, I'm just going to eat the whole pizza when I barely go over my calories and binge eat a box of Cheez-Its in bed. When I wasn't doing any of those habits anymore, I honestly came like very the other way. I was like, okay, I'm never going back there. And so I kind of thought like, I'm so scared of who I was and becoming that again that I can't take a rest day, that I can't not hit 10K steps, that I can't take a weekend break from calorie tracking whenever, you know, I have a fun vacation. I started thinking in that area because I thought, okay, these habits and the things that I love doing that make me feel really good have gotten me to the point of confidence and success. And I started actually seeing progress that I associated anything opposite of them with failure and with taking me back to where I hated my body and I was so not confident and where I was stuck in a cycle that made me feel so mentally and emotionally and physically exhausted. And I wanted nothing to do with that, obviously, because I felt so much better now. But then I was kind of pushing it to the point of like, okay, am I getting too far on the other side of this to where I'm starting to feel negative about the habits that were positive? And that's the line that you have to draw for yourself. You have to realize that everything is in moderation, even good things, okay? Think about your favorite person in the entire world. My husband. I literally am obsessed with him, couldn't be more in love. There are still times when if we were together every second of every single day, I would probably be like, oh my gosh, I need a little bit of me time. I need a little bit of alone time, or I need a little bit of time to work on my work, be an individual, enjoy my hobbies, right? So everything that's good, you need to be able to take a step back and not have it sometimes so that relationship is still so positive. And that's how me and my husband are still in love and, perfect, foster this amazing relationship full of growth and love, is because we don't go to the extremes that take away that positive. And that's something that I had to learn for myself. I had to realize, okay, my mindset should be proud of myself, should be consistency, should be what habits do I need to accomplish to feel good later. But it shouldn't be because I'm so scared of the person that I used to be that's what's motivating my progress forward. It should be, I want to be in pursuit of a better me, a me that is anxiety-free, stress-free, that rests, that recovers and lets her body restore itself, that gives herself a mental break while also being able to perform to her highest ability, run faster, lift heavier, feel good about the food that she's eating, feel really energized in the morning when she wakes up, has a good night's sleep, is able to feel confident in my body at all times in the day. The reason we're able to do those things is because we have the right amount of a positive relationship with our healthy habits, not one that takes us way, way past that line. I think that's something that you really have to work on along the way. I would argue that it's something that you should do first. You can work on it, of course, as you go. I kind of tell my clients, like, a lot of times I think that sometimes if you're dealing with like binging or a really bad relationship with food and exercise, sometimes you do have to take the step to heal that first before you target a goal that is really physical, right? Like weight loss or body recomp or something that has a lot to do with numbers and data. But a lot of times me and my clients do that together, right? We execute on their calorie deficit, or we execute on counting macros, and we execute on a workout plan that we set for them. And we do it together through having a plan, but also mindset coaching around different thought patterns that they've been perpetuating that maybe do form those negative relationships with food or exercise, whether it be like to an extreme one way or the other. When we work on that together and you have accountability and like a support system, kind of reframe your mindset throughout this journey, I think that's the perfect combination that really works well together in tandem so that you can get to your goals efficiently whenever it comes to like executing on nutrition and fitness, but so that you also can craft a healthy mindset so that whenever you get there, it's through strategies like exercising whenever you physically can, getting to the gym maybe 3 times a week, not 7, hitting a step count of maybe 8K instead of forcing yourself to try to do 15 if that's taken away from your lifestyle. Having weekends where you take a break from calorie tracking and you learn how to intuitive eat and portion control and fuel your body in a smart way without sabotaging yourself, right? Those are all tactics that we can do while we're working on executing with data and numbers and tracking calories and macros and weighing yourself and tracking things to be sure we're promoting a result. It doesn't have to be separate, right? A lot of times I think that that's why coaching is so beneficial, because it really helps you connect the two instead of having to focus on one or then the other. And then you can kind of streamline your results, and it's kind of just a smoother process overall. And I really do think that the way my mindset is right now around fitness and exercise and food is honestly probably the healthiest that it's ever been, and I'm constantly growing in that area too. I think it's a lifelong journey, especially if you've dealt with a negative mindset around health and wellness in the past. Those old habits die hard, right? Sometimes it takes really intentional effort and mindset practices to be able to continually grow and to get to a place where you are mentally happy with the result that you've created physically and mentally for yourself. And I think probably that's the part where we're ever evolving. Of course, we can ever evolve physically too whenever it comes down to like muscle gain, fat loss, improving your body composition, whatever you want to do. But I think the mental portion of it is where most of the growth happens that promotes the sustainability long term so that you're creating a lifestyle. And that is another one of the biggest mistakes that I think I made. That's probably the last one I'll go over, is always having an end goal in my head rather than being focused on the journey. So it's never negative to have an end goal, right? Like, okay, I go to, oh, my feet are asleep. Okay, I have to move the camera a little bit. I was sitting on my feet and they're like so asleep and hurting so bad. So, sorry if this isn't as like aesthetically pleasing, but, okay, so I have a client right now, right? Which is the story I was gonna tell, who basically set a goal at the very beginning of our journey to look and feel really good by her trip to Italy, right? Because she was going in like 3 months from when we first started. That's not a negative. You can have a timeline goal. You can motivate yourself through something that's coming up that you want to feel good for, but that wasn't our priority. We weren't like, okay, we're gonna take a really aggressive approach during this 3 months so that we achieve all of these results that you're not going to be able to continue in Italy or past Italy, or that's not going to look like a lifestyle that you're going to return to when you get home. That's the difference. You can't be so focused on an end goal that you're so motivated to do anything to get there. Like, think about it like, okay, if you want to become a politician so bad, or you want to run for president, right? And you're constantly thinking, okay, I need to run for president in 2028. I only have 4 years. I need to get as much done as possible. I need to burn myself out. I need to completely overload my plate. I need to step on people to get there. I need to do things that I don't necessarily agree with, that I think, you know, are going to be part of my lifestyle long term. I need to throw people under the bus. I need to have all of these habits in order to get to a goal that I'm not going to tell myself I'm going to have later. And I'm just going to be like, okay, I'm doing it because I have to get there so fast, but I'm going to stop doing it after I get the goal. After that 4 years and I get the presidency, I'm going to stop, you know, taking money from people who I morally don't agree with to support my campaign or whatever. If you're doing things in order to get to a goal that has a timeline in your head that you don't agree with, or that don't promote a positive relationship for a lifestyle long-term for you, it isn't going to be something that you're going to be able to maintain the results by without continually doing those negative habits. So if you want to maintain the results of all of your hard work long-term, the habits need to be something that you can see yourself doing long-term. Whenever me and my client that I was talking about, she was having really bad struggles with all or nothing mindset and binge eating and overeating and feeling guilt around food, and we really worked on, number one, we're going to work on mindset shifts and really dig into that while we execute on this deficit. We're gonna hit your weight loss goals. You're gonna feel really good in Italy, but we're gonna continue pushing for goals afterwards, because we're gonna build the habits that get the results, but that also make you feel really mentally good. You wake up excited to continue, and that you always feel like, I don't need a constant escape from this routine. That is exactly how we got her to, from 134 pounds to 118, going to Italy feeling so confident and coming back telling me, Kelly, I'm literally so excited. This is the first time that, you know, I came back from a trip and I'm like excited to get back into my normal routine, and I don't want to continue negative habits. I want to like just do what I was doing to lose weight before and get right back into those habits, because it's just part of my life. That's the goal. And if you don't promote that while you're on your journey to success physically, you aren't going to be able to maintain the physical results, because we're all human and we can't continually do things that makes us miserable 24/7. Take that into account and really make sure you focus on the strategies that are gonna make you feel good. I mean, just for examples, this means like not blaming yourself if you have a weekend off track. This means looking at things as learning opportunities, and if you accidentally fall back into overeating one night, looking at it and being like, okay, what could I have done differently that day? Maybe I needed more protein in my lunch to feel full and satisfied. Maybe I needed to meal prep another go-to late night snack so that I had something to reach for whenever I was feeling hungrier than normal. When you look at things through a lens of how do I improve and get better, and then use those improvements and critiques later when the situation arises, that's how you're constantly changing your behavior and habits, and you're diving into a lifestyle that is shaped through the mistakes that are specific to you and what you need to change. And that completely changes your life like it did mine. So I hope this really helps. I love you guys. Please let me know if you have any questions below, or any other tips or tricks that I can dive into that maybe will really help you in your journey, whether that's physically, mentally, or all of the above. I know you are so capable, and I would love to help in any way that I can. And if you're a woman who obviously resonates with needing accountability, needing someone to support you and guide you and help you make shifts in your nutrition to create a lifestyle, you know, where you're fueling your body, you're feeling full and satisfied, you're on a nutrition routine that you don't have to second guess mentally all the time and exhaust yourself with, and you have the plan laid out in front of you and somebody also to support you as far as keeping you consistent on it to get to the end goal. That is exactly what I help my clients do in my permanent weight loss coaching program. The application is linked below. So obviously if you're interested, go apply. I will reach out to you and we'll talk about how to get you started, and I can answer any of the questions that you have too, and we can go from there. But other than that, I hope you guys love this video. Let me know if you like this style and I can kind of do more of these. Obviously I want to make whatever content y'all want me to make. So thanks for being here. Make sure you follow Instagram and TikTok below too, so you can see all my daily content. And other than that, I'll see you next week. Bye.